Hello YouTube! So you might notice I am a little more spiffed up than I normally am for these videos. There's two reasons for that. First is that it is National Coming Out Day, so this video marks my entrance into my third year making YouTube videos. So I posted my first one for National Coming Out Day 2010. It was an It Gets Better video. I was really inspired by Dan Savage's project, and I really wanted to get involved and sort of get my face out there as somebody who's established in their life and able to make the choices to live the way that makes me happy, to pass that message on to younger versions of myself and say it does get better. So I've been doing this for 2 years, and I don't see any end in sight. I'm really enjoying doing it, even if I don't post, every week or anything like that. But I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to make sure that I make the time and really do the activism, that I'm trying to do, which is, honestly, this is about as far as I get, mostly, as far as activism goes. But anyway, the second reason is that in honor of National Coming Out Day this year, I have decided to answer the 7 questions for the We Happy Trans project. So if you go to wehappytrans.org, they have a site where basically they're just trying to show other trans people that there are trans people who are happy. And, this is what better looks like, But they have 7 questions. This is their first project. They're asking people to answer these 7 questions, post videos. So this is mine. A little later than I intended to do it, but I figured National Coming Out Day was probably the best plan for it. So, okay, question number 1. What's your name? Chosen or otherwise? Now, beyond your name, I personally don't really care how you identify. I'm not entirely comfortable with defining myself in terms we're given. This is actually from the first video. So, however, if it's important to you to be known as a trans man or woman, crossdresser, queer, androgynous, non-binary, or whatever, or if you want people to use certain pronouns when referring to you in comments or discussion, go ahead and lay those on us, whatever you're comfortable with. My name is Bryn. That is my chosen name. My birth name is Paul. I'm bigender, so I have 2 gender presentations that I use to interact with the world. Because my gender identity sort of swings on a pendulum back and forth along the spectrum, and sometimes I'm more on the male side and sometimes I'm more on the female side. So for this video, since this might be introducing the concept to a lot of new people, I'm using a conceit that I haven't used since my first video, and so I will be bouncing back and forth between my Bryn presentation and my Paul presentation on alternating questions. So I originally started identifying as a crossdresser, but I realized eventually that it wasn't just about the clothes. It was really about satisfying this sense of femininity or womanhood in my own gender identity that wasn't just covered under the clothes. It was just the idea of embodying the woman that I know that I am. But I'm also still a man, I still have my days where I very much am a guy, and my gender identity is a guy, and I'm like I feel like a cissexual person, or cisgendered person, There is no dysphoria. I'm happy in the body I was given. Yeah, so I'm Bryn, and I'm Paul. I'm not 2 people in one body. I'm 1 person with 2 presentations. And it's just the filter that I use to interact with the world, and the world interacts with me. So yeah, by gender, that's me. Question number 2. Who has been most supportive of your transition? If you haven't started transition, who's been most supportive of your gender expression, questioning, or explorations? Most supporting, hands down, is my girlfriend. When I met her, I was already out. In fact, I met her as a woman. And she primarily knew me as a woman for the first part of our friendship. But she's always known about my gender identity. And she's always been just absolutely 100% in my corner when it comes to gender. And she's the one who taught me that someone can love me including my gender identity and expression, and not despite it, not because of it, not like, in a fetishistic or chasey way, just understanding that it's part of the definition of me and part of, who I am. And so to love me and to love all of me is to love this part of me as well. And it's not burdensome, and it's not, it's not controversial to her. There's some areas in our lives where we're not out, both of us for work, her family. But she's absolutely, my gender has never been really a subject for argument or controversy in our relationship. So that was more than I thought was possible to find. And she really opened my eyes to that. So, I'll always just absolutely appreciate that the most about her, on top of everything else, is that she taught me that I can be loved as a whole person. And it's a really important lesson to learn, whether as a trans person or just as a person, that, you can be loved along with all of this, or in whole with all of this, and not in spite of, or despite, or except for, all of that stuff. So it's a really powerful, wonderful gift, and one that I didn't know was even something I could have in my life. My family has been very supportive. We don't talk a lot about my gender identity. I'm out to them, and my expression to them can best be described as full spectrum. There's times that I go to family events and I look like this, and there's times that I go and I look like the other part of this video, and no one really asks questions about it, but nobody makes me feel unwelcome, not even a little bit. So they've been the most surprisingly supportive, and the only reason it's a surprise is because I didn't give them enough credit, and that's my fault. That comes from me. That's not anything that they necessarily made me feel that I was going to be unwelcome or kicked out of the family, or no longer invited to parties and things if I were this kind of person. I just assumed that they were going to hate me. But it turns out they're very loving, very wonderful people, and I'm always welcome at all the events. And even if we don't, get into high-level discussions about what gender identity and expression and theory is, it's just part and parcel of Polly being Polly. I'm still absolutely one of my, I'm part of the family. Like there's no part of the family that's trying to get me kicked out. That I'm just who I am, and they fully accept me for that. So that was the most surprising area of support to find. But it was a pleasant surprise. Let's see. Question number 3. What do you enjoy most about your life since beginning transition? That is, what are some of the things you love doing now that you couldn't do before? And if you're not there yet, what about the possibility of transition excites you most? What do you look forward to? So as far as transition goes, being bigender, I don't have a traditional transition path that, say, a transsexual person would have. I have altered my body from factory standard. I started hormone replacement therapy 3 years ago, in September of 2010. So I was 32 at the time. I had just turned 32. No. 2009. I'm sorry, September 2009. So I was 31. So I just hit my 3rd year. I'm in now my 4th year. And what took me so long to start was that I was married and I had kids, and I had a life that I didn't know how hormonal transition would fit into. Turns out in that particular life, not very well. So that life is now different, and different in such a way that hormone therapy fits in. But I don't have like an end goal. I'm not looking for any kind of surgery on the horizon, at least not at this point. 10 years ago, I wouldn't have told you I would be on hormone replacement therapy, so I can't tell you that 10 years from now, I won't have had some kind of surgery, but at this point in my life, I'm not looking for it. It's not something I'm planning for. But the real transition for me has been living out and being able to go out in the world in whatever gender presentation I feel like. If I'm feeling very femmy and I want to, put on a retro dress and high-heeled shoes and dress real pretty, I can do that. And, I do a pretty good job passing. I'm lucky in that regard. But my life, I've fixed my life in such a way that I'm allowed to do that stuff now. So I feel free in a lot of ways that I was not free before. I love the idea of feeling authentic and like I'm not lying to all of my friends all of the time, or to my family, and pretending that this image that I put forth to them is all that there is to me, and that I'm not, I'm not hiding with shame and fear anymore, and that's not part of what makes me me. I don't live in fear that someone's going to find out. The idea, the benefit of being just as out as I can possibly be is that there's no worry. If somebody finds out, it's because I simply haven't told them yet. And now I get to have a conversation about, here's the rest of me. Here's all this other stuff you didn't know. So, it's really awesome to be a whole person and to be able to share that whole person with the people that I love. So really, that's the benefit of transition. It's not the shape of your body or the name on your documents or the clothes that you wear. It's the feeling of being completely authentic and true to who you are, and giving up the fear and giving up the shame. And it's so hard to do that. You carry this ball of shame around in your heart for your entire life, and then finally the day comes where you can just set that down and you don't need it anymore. And you will, if you're not there yet, the day that happens to you, the day that happens for you, will be the day that your life begins, and you will never want to go back. If you're anything like me, that's my experience. I wouldn't go back in the closet for almost any reason whatsoever. Question number 4. Who are your trans role models? Or who have you looked up to in the trans community? Who inspires you? Whether it's someone you know or someone you've admired from afar, this is your chance to give a shout out. Oh, man. Trans role model. Morgan from Trans Labyrinth channel. She absolutely inspires me. I think her life is amazing. And the fact is she is almost 10 years younger than me. And I find her so wise and so full of clever advice and just, I was lucky enough to get to be friends with her. Like that's, I don't know how that happened. We started on YouTube around the same time, and we traded, compliments back and forth, and that eventually turned into a friendship. And she is absolutely a brilliant woman, and she's just so with it and so together, and so much more in her own life than I was at her age. You know, she's 23 or 24, and I mean, I was newly married, and I was a father for the first time when I was that young. So, you know, I wasn't uninvolved in my life. I just don't know that I was as aware of my life as she is. Like, she's just so very conscious of all of her blessings and just all of this wonder that her life gives her. Sorry. She's amazing, and she has such a handle, and has such a handle on being trans, and has come so far so fast. I mean, it took me 10 years from the time I first came out to actually start living out, and even then, I had to go through this evolution of figuring out what bigender is, and how that impacts my life, and what that really means, and you know, what kind of turmoil that threw my life into. You know, she's amazing. She's just absolutely amazing. And I am quite jealous of her beautiful natural ginger hair. Let's see, other trans role models. I know a couple of trans guys from also from online who, you know, they started their transition before I did, and they've been living out and you know, dealing with all of the business that comes from being trans. And so, you know, there's a fair bit of knowing that it can be done that I learned because I knew these other people. I don't actually know or haven't known a lot of trans people in my life. It's something that well, I mean, since founding bigender.net, of course, I know a lot more trans people, but on a personal one-on-one interaction, I don't have a lot of trans friends. So I really do cherish the ones that I have, and someday I hope I get to grow up and be more good. Let's see. So, question 5. What changes would you like to see in the world? This can be translated or not. We'd love to know where your passion lies. Honestly, I want the world to be safe for trans people. I want the world to be safe. I want trans people to be free to be who they are and not fear that they're going to get killed, they're going to get beaten up, they're going to get kicked out, they're going to get financially cut off, you know, because I want people to understand that this is just one more shape that people come in. This is just one more flavor of people. And of course, anytime you have a different flavor of person, there's going to be some other person who can't stand that flavor and wants, I don't know, the metaphor breaks down, but I mean, they want to take the rights away, and they want to prevent these people from violating all of these carefully constructed categories that they've created to put other people in, and, you know, not violate this idea that if you start off in one shape, you can possibly end up in another shape, and you can be happy with the transformation. You know, you can be happy to be in this new shape, and people don't like it when other people are happy in a situation they don't understand. So I want people to understand what it is to be trans and what it is to be queer, and to know that people come in just 6 billion different flavors. And, you know, you can never create categories that will hold every person, because you're always going to start bleeding through on the edges. And trans is one of those situations where people bleed through on the edges. We break down the lines of gender, and this is sort of fundamental to people. So I want them to understand gender as a globe where someone can be living, you know? Yeah. You're not like, I don't know, the world is a big place. So the gender is like a globe, you know? You're not just, you know, in Chicago or in New York. You could be living in LA. You could be living in Singapore. You could be living in, you know, Jakarta. You could be anywhere on this globe and still be human. You know, that's the wonderful thing, is all over this world, doesn't matter where you live, you're still a human. So, you know, your gender is the same way. No matter where you are in the gender globe, you're still human, you know? It's just a different continent that you live on, you know? So that's what I want people to understand. That's where I want the safety to come from. Question number 6. What are you doing to make these changes happen? That's right, all no getting off the hook. We're all in this big old mess together, and we need to each do our part. Share with us how you're the change you want to see. Well, in regards to making the world safe for trans people, you know, I'm not a superhero. So as much as I would like to be, you know, trans person and fly in and break up any, you know, trans misogyny or trans violence or any of that stuff, the best I can do is create safe spaces. So that's what I did with bigender.net. I mean, there's a selfish component to that. I wanted a place where I could go to feel safe being bigender and learn, you know, what it means to be bigender and find out if there's other people. And I didn't really find a place where that existed. You know, there were bigender sub-forums as part of androgyny forums on other large trans forums. And none of those were really things that spoke to me. So I have a bit of a techie bend. So I was able to acquire a couple domain names and some server space and throw up a forum and do a couple other things, you know, along the way. Now there's a video chat room using TinyChat. There's a journal site using Dreamwidth code. There's the forums. You know, but all of this is in the effort of creating a bigender community so that, you know, some 20-year-old who was in the position that I was isn't left with the choice of am I a cross-dresser or transsexual, because those are the only two choices available. You know, there's safety in living in the middle or being elsewhere on the spectrum or in the sphere, you know. So, you know, making the world safe for being trans comes from making, you know, safe spaces, and that's what bigender.net is intended to be. And of course, I try to be educating in my own life. You know, I try to teach people what it means to be trans and be open to answering questions and you know, just be available for, just open to opportunities as they come along. You know, I got to go talk to Yale last year. You know, 30 kids or something like that from at Yale's Women's Center through their LGBT co-op. But I got invited to go out there because of these videos. You know, that's another thing that I do is you know, this is part of my education, is putting these videos out there and making my face, you know, a public face for bigender, so that there's somebody else that can, so that someone can see my video and go, oh, that's me. That's my life. That makes so much more sense. Now I have something that explains who I am. So, you know, I got to go out to Yale because of doing that stuff and you know, educate some Ivy League kids who, you know, when they graduate may go on and, you know, run Fortune 500 companies or whatever, and they've spoken to a transgender person and a bigender person at that. So maybe they will create safe space out in the world, you know, because they have a face to put with the vague concept of being transgender. And then that brings us to magical number 7. Tell us anything special and unique about you, your interest, your story. Never forget, gender is just one part of the larger project of becoming a fully authentic human being. I am a dad. I mean, not terribly unique. Everybody has a dad. I collect comic books. I've been collecting comic books now for 18 years. I just hit 18 years. I have something like 8,000 comic books in bags and boards in my garage. Let's see. I pass that love along to my daughters. They are inveterate comic book fans, and I'm turning them into lovely little geeks. They're 11 and 9, my daughters, and they are just amazing people. Like, that's the weirdest thing about parenthood, is all of a sudden you have these little babies who become people, and They have senses of humor, and you find ways that your senses of humor jive, just like with every other person. It's really cool. It's really, really cool. That's my favorite thing about myself, is getting to be a dad. I just bought a house. I just got a puppy who is currently in puppy loaf format over there. Let's see. I think that's it. I mean, gosh, I don't know. I do this. Like, I don't find my life extraordinary because it's the only life I have. So I make YouTube videos. I run bygender.net. That's a thing, you know. I created that site for safe space, and it's coming up on its 3rd birthday this coming April. So 2.5 years now it's been going. And like, there's a whole community and family there, and there's people who meet who would never have met because if I hadn't just done this thing. So I'm really proud of that. It's like another one of my babies, you know. Yeah, for a 34-year-old person, I'm pretty savvy with the internets, and I have a pretty viable internet persona and presence, as you might have noticed from, you know, watching my video on the internets right here. Anyway, that's all I have for today. If you have any questions, you can leave me a comment on YouTube. You can send me a note on YouTube. You can email me at brand@bygender.net. You can come to bygender.net and join the forums. Or you can create your own journal there. It's, like I said, it's based off the Dreamwidth code. So it's just like LiveJournal, Dreamwidth. You know, you can set permissions and friend other people and that kind of thing. You'll need an invite code. Use TubingU, TUBINGYOU. There's no advertisements on bygender.net. It's all run out of my pocket. So, you know, you know, I'm not trying to make any money off of this. I want to open my community to all of the people. Yeah, so that's all I have. I thank the We Happy Trans people for allowing me to play in their little sandbox. Until next time.